So Kamala Harris is going to do the Veepstakes. She's going to pick her vice presidential choice, they say, by Monday. That's what's being repeated. So there's 6 people that's up for contention for her vice president, to be her running mate, to be the vice president. Pete Buttigieg, Mark Kelly, Josh Shapiro, Tim Walz, Andy Beshear, J.B. Pritzker. A lot of these, 4 of them are governors. Mark Kelly, Pete Buttigieg, he's part of the cabinet, and he's a congressman or a senator or something. So the 4 governors and then 2 U.S. representatives. Pete Buttigieg, Mark Kelly, Josh Shapiro, Tim Walz, Andy Beshear, J.B. Pritzker. Tim Walz notably got the whole, everything's weird. Look at what they're doing. They're just so weird. Andy Beshear is just a nice guy. J.B. Pritzker, I don't know much about him. Mark Kelly, was he in space or NASA? He was, I'm not for sure. Pete Buttigieg. Anyways, I want to talk about their positions on Israel-Palestine. When you have 2 people who's fighting, if you have 2 different groups who's against each other, typically you don't just pick one side over the other. You try to find out the truth. You get to the bottom of the truth, and then from that firm foundation of truth, you can figure out what's going on. People say, well, look at October 7th. Look at October 7th. We've been doing this shit to Palestine since 1948. So let's take a look at 1948 and then take a look at 1967. Right now, the statistics coming out of Palestine is disgusting. Not only has there been 48,000 people killed, but if you add starvation and disease, it's up to 200,000. I even heard one report say it was 300,000. So, yeah, October 7th is bad. When it comes to war, you don't want people warring against each other. But in terms of proportionality, there's nothing proportional about this thing whatsoever. There is nothing proportional about this thing whatsoever. The one statistic that keeps bugging the shit out of me, you got 2 million people that live in Palestine. You got 2 million people who live in Palestine. And I heard that all 2 million have been displaced, meaning everybody in Palestine has had to at least move from Palestine one time or another. And this shit has kept on going. It's already August. So October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. That's 10 months. That's 10 months that this genocide of Gaza, the genocide of the Palestinians, the genocide of the West Bank has carried on. This is ridiculous. Because when I look at the numbers, 48,000, 200,000, most of them are children. Most of them are children. So they are just going around bombing and shooting and killing everybody, and they're going to take us down into the abyss of hell. Israel's trying to start a nuclear war. The rest of the world sees this shit. You might not be paying attention to it. The media might not be talking about it. But Israel is committing a genocide. This is a war against children. I just saw one image where the baby was 3 months old. So the baby, I think it was a female, she was born 3 months ago. What did she do? What did that baby do? 200,000. Most of them are children. Why are we killing the children? Because it's, I guess that's how war is. To be the terrorist, you got to bomb the civilians or something. The hypocrisy is disgusting. But even if you say, who cares about the Palestinians? Do you care about yourselves? You're going to let a foreign nation take you down into the abyss of hell. Now you might say it's our friend or our ally. Okay, well then let's say it's our pit bull. Israel's our pit bull, and it's off its leash. And it's going around attacking everybody in the neighborhood. We need to pull our pit bull back or just give up our pit bull. There's a lot of things that America does to protect Palestine. So I want to talk about there's the United Nations vote. There's all the billions of dollars, and then there's weapons. I saw a kid actually hold up the bomb that he had found, and it says "Made in America." So the rest of the world understands what's going on. Because the United States believes in a 2-state solution, which means Palestine gets to live in the West Bank and Gaza, and Israel gets to live in Israel. But Israel's invading Palestine. And just like Russia invading Ukraine is wrong, well, Israel invading Palestine is wrong too. Now, I took a breath when Kamala Harris was the choice. Joe Biden's going to step down. Kamala is going to run this campaign. And there is some excitement, right? She's more youthful. She's black or Jamaican. With the one drop rule, I mean, clearly not a lily white Caucasian male. So I do like those things, that she's a black woman, because that means she's going to make history for America. So I took a breath when she was picked, because when Netanyahu came into town, she wasn't there, and a lot of people had interpreted it as a snub. She had a campaign event some other place. But then I read a different post by Ralph Nader that said that her husband was actually taking care of those details. Her husband was talking to Netanyahu. So I would love to think that Kamala would at least be fair about this thing, because if we're just going to take one side over the other side without actually looking at the truth or looking at the full situation, America's policy, official policy, is a two-state solution. A two-state solution. So if they keep doing the settlements and keep encroaching, I mean, if two people are living side by side, you got person, house, land, and this person allows their children to set up little tents and encampments and build up their houses on somebody else's land. That's not right. That's not right. So let's talk about, I only got 3 of the 6 of the one that's running. I'm not for sure where Buttigieg, Mark Kelly, or Pritzker stands on anything, but I did get a couple of quotes from Andy Beshear, Josh Shapiro, and Tim Walz. So Andy Beshear, let's start with him. He's the governor of Kentucky, and he was confronted with Palestinian protesters November 2nd, 2023 on the campus of the University of Kentucky. Now, he was confronted by Palestinian protesters, and he had said that, so the October 7th attack was just fresh, and he was saying that there's, thoughts and prayers for the people of Israel, and that he said it was a horrible terrorist attack, which it was. Horrible terrorist attack, just like the killing of 200,000. That's a horrible terrorist attack. Killing of children. You know what Timothy McVeigh said about the killing of children? That is just collateral damage. So Andy Beshear hasn't said much about Palestine. And so that's notable because he's been silent on Palestine. Does he think it's collateral damage too? Does he think all the kids that are being killed in Palestine is just collateral damage? So he's been silent on Palestine. That doesn't mean one thing or another. He could just be, diplomatically, politically, pragmatic, cautious. Just don't want to weigh in on foreign policy matters. After the October 7th attack, he had the flags of Kentucky lowered half-mast. He criticized Russia invading Ukraine. He said that we should be united against the external threat of Russia. So he's been notably silent. That's really the only thing you could say about Andy Beshear. So I would love to know what his true views actually are. Is it okay for Israel to do whatever they want, but not for Palestine? Israel could kill all the babies and children and 200,000. And when the hell does this thing end? Do you not think that Hamas or the Palestinians have been, you don't think it's over? You don't think that's proportional? Because during the Nakba, 1948, Israel, because the Bible had said 2,000 years ago, Israel was promised as a Jewish homeland. Yeah, we had the Holocaust. And I'm not Hitler. So I do think that there should be a safe haven for the Jewish people. It wasn't just Jews killed in the Holocaust too. There was communists, socialists, the Eastern Europeans, they call them gypsies. I don't know what the Roma people. So there was a lot of people that were killed during the Holocaust. Black folks, brown folks, disabled folks. So all those people need a safe refuge. All those people need a safe haven. And so the idea of Israel was that Jewish folks need a safe haven because they've been living in all these different European countries and getting all this. So during the Nakba, when 1948 happened, Palestinians have been living there for 500, 1,000 years. So a lot of Jewish folks are atheists. They don't even believe in God, but they know that God promised them Israel. And Moses, he parted the Red Sea, right? He just parted the Red Sea. The 10 plagues, he just asked God to send a bunch of locusts and the plagues and a plague and a plague. There's a lot of bullshit with the whole Moses story. Now, Tim Watts had said something. Well, let's talk about Josh Shapiro. Now, Josh Shapiro is making his Jewish identity a big part of his identity, which is fine. I'm not a big fan of religion, but here in America, we believe in freedom of religion. So you could be a Buddhist, you could be a Christian, you could be Jewish. And that's actually saved us a lot of conflict. Before, Christians were killing each other, right? The Protestants and the Catholics were killing each other. So because of our freedom of religion, we've stemmed the tide of all that religious hatred and violence. I forget to mention this one thing. Andy Beshear, during that Palestinian, it was protesters, Americans who were protesting on behalf of Palestine. They had a sign that said 4,553 kids were killed. So October 7th, there was, 1,000, 2,000 people had got killed, and then there was the hostages. Well, he knows that at the very least, 10 months ago, 4,500 kids were killed because the Palestinian protesters, the Americans protesting on behalf of Palestine, had let him know. He also sees all the same images that I'm seeing. It's all out there. So the thing with Andy Beshear is that he's just said that he loves Israel. Israel deserves to exist and to defend itself. Does he say the same thing about Palestine? I need to hear all these people say the same thing about Palestine. Now, Josh Shapiro had gotten married in Jerusalem. So it's okay to be Jewish. Jon Stewart is Jewish. You have Larry David, who is Jewish. Sarah Silverman is Jewish. I don't know any Jewish folks myself. I didn't grow up around anti-Semitism. There was one guy that said something that he only grew up. I remember a classmate of mine saying that he only grew up around anti-Semitism, which was weird to me because it's like, it just seemed like you're hating something, somebody who's not around. You're just hating people that aren't around. So anti-Semitism does exist. I remember JFK had said something about Martin Luther King Sr. He said it's kind of crazy that Martin Luther King Sr. was a bigot because he was against Catholics. So religion is just such a, like I said, I don't care for religion. It would be awesome if we didn't have religion, if religion wasn't around. But people have a right to be stupid. And the idea of the freedom of religion is you can do your religion over there, but you can't commit crimes. So do your religion over there, do your religion over there, do your religion, Buddhists right there, Christians right there, Jewish folks right there, the Zoroastrians, they get to worship Zoroaster too in any way that they want to. You can't go around robbing, raping, murdering, stealing. The law of Moses is thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's land. The 10 Commandments, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, thy neighbor's horse, thy neighbor's land. Thou shalt not bear false witness. So you got to tell the truth. So Josh Shapiro is the governor of Pennsylvania. He had severed the state contracts with Ben and Jerry's. And he had used a Pennsylvania anti-BDS law. So you can't boycott and divest and sanction Israel. You can not like what Israel's doing, but still be okay with Jewish folks. Jewish folks, worship however you want to worship. Do not kill Palestinian people. Do not steal land that isn't yours. Israel. So Israel, I could separate Israel from Jewish folks in my mind. Also, there's plenty of land in the west of America. Utah, Montana. There's plenty of space for Jewish folks in America. Israel's this tiny country. Jerusalem has been fighting for a long time. We don't have peace in the Middle East. But I would be okay with having, we have Chinatown, we have German towns. I'd be okay with a Jewish town in America somewhere. So to think that you can't boycott, divest, and sanction a state who is doing a genocide is ridiculous. It also goes against America, goes against our free speech. I've seen people, talk trash about our presidents, talk trash about Christianity, and yet somehow we're going to draw the line at Israel. There was that law that they were thinking about passing. So Ben and Jerry's, they didn't want to sell ice cream to the Israeli settlements in the West Bank. Yeah, because it's not your country. The Israeli settlements in the West Bank, you're not in your country. You're stealing other people's land. A two-state solution means that Israel can't build settlements in Palestine, in Gaza, nor the West Bank. Ben and Jerry's is awesome. That makes me want to go out and buy a whole bunch of Ben and Jerry's. It makes me think of that chicken place. They're a bunch of homophobic piles of shit, and then their sales went through the roof. Ben and Jerry's isn't anti-Semitic. They're against genocide. They're against stealing of land. They're against a one-state solution with Israel at the helm. So Josh Shapiro had wrote this letter to the editor saying how this is when he was 21 in 1993. I mean, what was going on in this is under Bill Clinton. And Joe Lieberman, Al Gore had picked Joe Lieberman to be his running mate in the 2000 presidential election. Al Gore didn't become president. And it also makes me wonder, would Al Gore have invaded Iraq and Afghanistan because of the Saudi Arabian attack of 9/11? Saudi Arabia attacked us on 9/11, and we attacked Iraq and Afghanistan. Would Al Gore have done the same thing? It makes me wonder, because you're picking a Zionist. A lot of people, I think that's a safe distinction. It's not the Jewish folks that people who are paying attention or knowledgeable are against, but it's the Zionists. It's the people that say Israel is for Jewish folks and only Jewish folks, and Israel can do whatever the hell they want to do to their neighbors. They could bomb Iran, bomb, Syria, bomb anybody and everybody that's around them whenever they want to. The whole idea of the United Nations is one nation can't invade another nation. So I like that Ben and Jerry's is taking a moral stance. I like that Ben and Jerry's is saying, no, Israel, it's time for you to stop. Two-state solution means you stay in your own house, you stay on your own land. You can't steal people's land. You can't murder children. This is a war against children. That's probably the easiest moral issue ever. We've lost our moral compass. It almost makes me bring all the troops home, because all of our troops are targets. We don't have a moral stance anymore. I mean, 1 million people were killed in Iraq. So this is a moral issue, which makes it a political issue. No, you can't just massacre a whole bunch of children. No, you can't do that. So I like that Ben and Jerry's is taking a moral stance on the thing. I haven't heard anything about them being anti-Semitic. Just that they don't like what the state of Israel, which is a theocracy, they don't believe in freedom of religion. We also give them billions of dollars, America does. We give them their bombs. We also give them our umbrella protection with the United Nations veto. So the whole world could condemn Israel's genocide, but America gives them our veto, and then now nobody's going to stop it. So our pit bull is off its leash, attacking everybody. We need to pull the purse strings, quit paying for the stuff, stop giving them all the weapons. And don't give them the United Nations veto. The International Criminal Court has issued a warrant for Netanyahu's arrest. So Josh Shapiro had severed state contracts with Ben and Jerry's because of a Pennsylvania anti-BDS law. The anti-BDS, you could boycott, divest, and sanction. Boycotting, divest, you don't have to spend money anywhere. You could sanction countries that are killing. If 2,000 is terrible to kill, then clearly 200,000 is terrible. And this is not even close to being proportional. That's not eye for an eye in the least. That's an eye for 10 eyes. justice is an eye for an eye. And it's actually a restrictive thing. So Josh Shapiro had wrote when he was 21, so yeah, it is 30 years ago, but does he believe something differently? Palestinians will not coexist peacefully. Oh, it's all the Palestinians' fault, right? They do not have the capabilities to establish their own homeland and make it successful, even with the aid of Israel and the United States. Yeah, because Israel and the United States haven't been completely biased. They're too battle-minded to be able to establish a peaceful homeland of their own. Too battle-minded is saying that Palestine doesn't deserve to exist. Palestine's existed for 500 to 1,000 years. So that looks, not only does it look like Josh Shapiro is saying, you know, kind of like Andy Beshear, that Israel's a country and they deserve to protect themselves, but it sounds like Josh Shapiro is saying that Israel could do no wrong. Israel could commit whatever crimes that they want to commit. Josh Shapiro said that the American protesters in defense of Palestine are like the KKK. Well, that's quite the stretch there, Josh Shapiro. He supports passing laws to stop divesting. So if I don't want to put money into companies that support genocide, Josh Shapiro says, no, I must use my money to support genocide. No, I don't, Josh. No, I don't. I'm allowed to boycott, divest, and sanction whomever I please. Now, I don't believe in discrimination, so I'd like our world to be a meritocracy. But you can't discriminate against, you know, homosexuals, black folks, men, women, old people, young people. No discrimination. If there's any kind of discrimination, no discrimination on superficial reasons. People's religion, the way that they dress, their culture. You can't discriminate against transgendered folks. The only kind of discrimination would be on a meritocracy or your character or your behavior. If I'm looking to hire people, well, I want, you know, qualified folks. And I do get to judge you based on your thoughts and your opinions and especially your actions. These children, I see like her face is just hanging there. And then there's a body just hanging up in the rafters that's been beheaded. And then I saw a father just holding the baby just one last time, just kind of holding it one last time. There was a father looking on the ground for his 4 children. He's like, where's my 4 kids at? I don't know where my 4 kids are. And the bombings don't stop. Why doesn't America pull the purse strings? I think as soon as America pulls the chain on its pit bull, the pit bull will stop. As soon as America says, hey, stop doing what you're doing, pit bull. A lot of this feels like segregation. A lot of this feels like the genocide of the Native Americans. Israel wants to set up shop in that specific location. Israel wants to set up shop in that location. A bunch of Palestinians were there, so they're just going to go ahead and sweep them off to the side like they're not even people. And then segregation. We had segregation in this country for a long time. And in some respects, it allowed black folks to establish their own businesses and their schools and their own houses. So it allowed black folks to be able to live. And then after living side by side for 100 years, then we integrated. I would love to think that integration could work. Let's have Palestine integrate Israel into Palestine. Would that be all right? I'm seeing this racist bullshit going on in Virginia City, Nevada. He was going around passing a petition, and this fucking guy said there's a hanging tree. This little douchebag, this little short fuck. You know, it's so incredible that the people, the white supremacists, are such disgusting looking. They're like the worst of the Caucasians, you know. They don't have any of the desirable traits. They're not big, strong. They're a bunch of little weaklings, a bunch of insecure little weaklings. He's got a Make America Great Again hat. So it's like, hey, will you sign my petition? Because that's the First Amendment. Aren't you fucking motherfuckers Americans? He could ask you to sign a petition. But hey, we got a hanging tree over there to the black guy, is what this fucking fat, fucking stupid looking motherfucker. And then you had a white woman kind of just come out and sort of push him with her belly and just put her hands on him and just kind of push him with her body on down the street. Racism is evil and gross and stupid. And the people that perpetuated are a bunch of douchebags. Somebody also said, don't you know the history of Virginia City, Nevada? Nevada itself is battle-born. Nevada itself wouldn't be around if it wasn't for Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War. So apparently, I don't know about Virginia City itself, and I know that there's a bunch of racist shit all over the place, but you couldn't say Virginia City, Nevada, because Nevada wouldn't have been a thing if it wasn't for Abraham Lincoln. So Josh Shapiro says that American protesters in defense of Palestine are like the KKK. He supports passing laws to stop boycotting, divesting, and sanctioning. He also thinks that it's the Palestinians' fault. It's just they're too battle-minded. They're just too crazy. They're just too bloodthirsty, violent psychos. They don't know how to establish a peaceful homeland of their own. They just don't know how to do it. They won't coexist peacefully. Since 1948, it's been both of them. I knew this one principal at a school. Whenever a fight had happened, he was fair, probably more than fair. And I would say maybe even 50% to 80% of the time, there's not perfect victims. A lot of times, a person isn't just peacefully sitting under a tree reading a book like a calm, peaceful person and then just starts getting hit. That's a perfect victim. So whenever a fight would happen, he would just punish both of them because he said that the other one was jawing. So the other one was talking some shit. So a principal at a Kentucky high school had said that whenever there's a fight, he thinks that both of them are involved most of the time. Most of the time, both of them. It takes two to tangle. But you can be a perfect victim too. And I think it does matter about who provokes the thing. So you could point to October 7th, terrible terrorist attack. But you could also point to 1948 and 1967. And you could, Netanyahu's been doing this entire dumb shit the entire 2000s. They call it cutting the grass. So just every so often, every year or two, Netanyahu is just going to cut the grass. He's just going to bomb the shit out of, Palestine here and there, kill a bunch of innocent civilians, and that's just the way to keep the whole population in line. They count every single calorie that goes in there. They have to go through military checkpoints. Cynthia McKinney tried to get some food into Palestine, and Israel had invaded it. How come we can't give food to the Palestinians? Now, last but not least, Tim Walz. Tim Walz, a lot of progressives were talking about this. Tim Walz, he was a reliable vote for military aid to Israel and pro-Israeli government resolutions when he served in Congress, and he rarely dissented from the party line. Okay, if it takes two to tangle, and a lot of times it's both of the sides, Israel has not been respecting the two-state solution. Netanyahu's been the prime minister. He's been a part of the government for, more than 24 years. I saw an article about 1998. Netanyahu was around. So he wasn't the prime minister the whole time. But Tim Walz is a slam dunk. He's lock, stock, and barrel for that theocracy. We pay for their universal health care while we don't have universal health care over here. We give them billions of dollars. I don't know why we give Israel more money than all the rest of them. We give them billions of dollars. We give Egypt billions of dollars. Every country gets a piece of the pie. But Egypt and Israel just gets the lion's share of our foreign aid. So we could cut the purse strings. We could denounce violence on both sides. That should not be hard to say, unless you're a racist, unless you're an unfair piece of shit. You see a black and a white person getting into it, then automatically you're just like against whatever the black guy is saying if you're a racist piece of shit. Al Gore didn't become president. And when it comes to who I'm going to vote for, Palestine is my number one issue. I do wish Jill Stein and Cornel West had a better chance at winning the presidential election because their perspective is on point. It's nuanced, it's smart, and it's intelligent. We need to hear Cornel West. We need to hear Jill Stein. But in terms of the three main candidates so far, Joe Biden, terrible on Palestine. Trump, terrible on Palestine. He's using Palestinian as a slur. RFK, terrible on Palestine. I've even heard RFK is even worse in some respects than Donald and Biden. So with Kamala, I held my breath. I would like for her to be more judicious, more nuanced, and I want her to understand that it's a two-way street. You could point out, I mean, Palestinians are throwing rocks. Well, they shouldn't have thrown rocks at the tanks, at the people with the AK-47s, the assault rifles, at the military occupation, at the apartheid. And a lot of times they're throwing rocks because they're demolishing one of their houses or they're arresting one of their people. So to me, if one state has guns and tanks and troops and then the other one is throwing rocks, that almost seems like the Palestinians have no other recourse. What are they supposed to do? Just drown? Just commit mass suicide? They're not going to do that. It makes no sense to think that they're going to do that. And this makes me think of Vietnam too. I guess we could have won Vietnam by leveling Vietnam and just wiping everybody out and then taking our radiation land and doing whatever we want with Vietnam. But is that a success? We're going to lose our moral authority if we haven't already lost it. And if we've lost our moral authority, we can't go around saving anybody. There's conflicts all over the place. There's something going on in Somalia, Egypt, Sudan. Cameroon is being run by a 40-something dictator. There's an Equatorial Guinea. If we're against dictatorships and people being in power for 40 years, well, those are governments that are just asking to be couped. You want to do some good coups? You want to let your morality lead you? It would be nice, since we give all that money to Israel, if we actually just put American troops boots on the ground. Because I know that when two people or two dogs or two anything are fighting, if you stand in between them, you could get hurt. But that's the only way that you're going to stop that fight, is by turning to one and saying, you stop your shit, and turning to the other saying, you stop your shit. That's why a two-state solution makes sense. In a way, America had a two-state solution with black folks and white folks for 100 years. And I do wish we had integrated, straight off, but maybe the history, the race, I don't know why we couldn't integrate straight from the beginning. Because Reconstruction was awesome, and in South Carolina, a lot of black folks had wrote a constitution up. But maybe living side by side for 100 years makes it easier to say, okay, they're people too. But it also institutionalizes racism as well. So I would like to think that we could just go straight to integration. So those are the comments that I'm going to make. Josh Shapiro. Josh Shapiro seems to be a big old shoo-in for Israel. Tim Walz is a big shoo-in for Israel. Andy Beshear has voiced concern and love for Israel, but he hasn't said anything about Palestine. So it seems like Andy Beshear, I don't want to say neutral, but he's silent, and silence can be violence. Silence is consent. Silence is accepting of what is going on. You see it, some terrible crimes, and you don't even say, hey, stop doing that. If you're a mouse and the elephant is stepping on the tail of a mouse, and you're a bystander, say you're another elephant who could just push the elephant off, but you walk by and you don't say or do nothing about it, how do you think the mouse feels? Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So you got to speak up. You got to say something. And maybe if you're another mouse, maybe you're scared too. But clearly the elephant stepping on a mouse's tail would be the one that's in the wrong. So you got to speak up. You got to say something. Pete Buttigieg, I would assume the worst. Mark Kelly, I don't know anything about Mark Kelly. He's a Arizona or New Mexico representative in terms of Israel, his position on Palestine. I want to hear all these people say, Cornel West, this is what I want to hear all the presidential candidates say. Cornel West likes to say that a baby born in Palestine has the same value as a baby born in Israel. That's 100% true. That is 100% true. No person, everybody is born pissing and shitting themselves. Nobody should be born with some kind of extra privilege over somebody else. So I took a breath with Kamala, but I also know how my nation works, and the two big parties are a bunch of capitalist imperialists. They're hyper-capitalist, hyper-imperialist. The Green Party and Cornel West are correct on the thing. RFK is wrong. The Democrats are wrong. The leadership of the Democratic Party is wrong. The leadership of the Republican Party is wrong. And a lot of this makes me think of the massacre of the innocents. Moses was born during a massacre of the innocents. Pharaoh said, kill all the Jewish babies 2 years old and under. And then King Herod said to kill all the people, all the males in Bethlehem. And then Pharaoh said that for all the firstborn to be killed. So Moses was born in blood. Jesus was born in blood. There was a massacre of the innocents by the Pharaoh, by the king, by the Herod, by the ruling authorities. And we're watching the massacre of the innocents right now. And Americans can be woefully ignorant, not paying attention. Everybody's got their own lives and stuff, but the media isn't doing a good job at showing it. The information's out there, but if you're not reading anything and everything, then it's possible for you not to come across it. But right is right, and right is always right, and wrong is always wrong. A person who tells a lie, even if you like them, doesn't make the lie true. And even if you hate the person telling the truth, that doesn't make the truth wrong. The truth is objective. The truth is immutable. The truth is the truth. The truth is objective. Something did or did not happen. JFK's head got blown away. He went back into the left. He went back into the left. That's the God's honest, objective truth. So I want to hear all these guys. Pete Buttigieg, Mark Kelly, Josh Shapiro, Tim Walz, Andy Beshear, J.D. Pritzker. Tell me that a Palestinian baby is worth just as much as a Israeli baby. An Israeli baby is precious. A Palestinian baby is precious. And we want this conflict, this war to come to an end, because if push comes to shove, the rest of the world knows exactly what we're doing. The rest of the world knows that America is involved. And so Israel's going to push for us to get bombed. They're pushing for a nuclear war. A lot of these right-wing Zionists, a lot of these right-wing nationalists, they always want to, they're cowards. When you have the state who are weak, they're just scholars, well then they're cowards. Then you have cowards leading the military, and if the military is dumb, then they just do as they're told. We need both. We need our strong folks to be smart, and we need smart folks to be strong. And I don't want America to get nuked. I don't want us to get bombed. And maybe we might get away with it one more fucking time, but I don't know. 2 million Palestinians have been displaced. There's been talk about the genocide, that some of the cabinet officials have expressed themselves crystal clearly. Jewish folks can practice their Jewish faith. I'm okay with that. I've been tolerating Christians my whole life. I don't care for religion because it just seems insane to me, and I'd like to be able to relate to folks. You think there's an invisible man in the sky, and there's some invisible man that lives in the earth without any evidence. That scares me. And if that's the only thing you believe, if that's the only thing you believe, I'd like to talk to you about something. Don't any of them believe in morality? I know Christianity believes, at least purportedly, in the golden rule. And the golden rule is you treat others the way you want to be treated, which is right. That's correct.